Hello everyone and welcome back to another video of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out another video from Zelda, the top 5 Zelda Final Bosses. Now, if I had to guess what it means by Final Bosses, it could mean just like the final boss of the game itself, or maybe even the final boss of a dungeon. But let's hop in and see what Zelda has to say. Still love that intro. It's amazing. Makes me feel like I just booted up a brand new
There's
Zelda
nothing
game.
better than a final boss fight. At the climax of the game, the very end of an epic story, there's nothing more awesome than finally standing toe to toe with the villain that's caused you so much suffering, ready to get your vengeance.
Alright, so final boss
I think
of
the reason
game.
I love these
Got
final
it.
bosses so much is because the lore of the Zelda series is one of the things that makes me love the game so much.
Oh, well that's strange. Hold on folks. Even though we were ready for the video wasn't ready for us. But now it is. We're back.
Fighting the main villains feels like you're writing the history of the series. These games are, for me, so replayable and so enjoyable time and time again because it feels like you're going back in time to epic cornerstones of Hyrule's long history, fighting monsters of legend.
Oh yeah.
So without further ado,
really
let's go
old.
through my top 5 picks for the best final boss battles in the Zelda series. As always, bear in mind that these are my own personal opinions. You might
Lottie?
completely disagree with every choice on the list, and if you do, that's fair enough. Let me know in the comments below what your favourite final bosses are.
Alright.
Number 5. Ganon, A Link to the Past.
Ah, a classic.
Ganon. I mean, it's not really spoiling anything to say that this isn't the last time you're going to see the big bad of the Zelda series on a top final bosses list.
So we'll probably see
And
Ganon
what better way
duel.
to start than with the
Not
fight
just
that,
Ganon.
for many, was the first true final Ganon fight the series ever had.
It
A
was
Link
for
to the
me.
Past is the third game in the Zelda series,
Oh, this
released
game.
in
Never
January
mind.
of 1995 here in Europe, to critical acclaim. It built on everything the first Zelda tried to do. Free open world exploration, dungeons full of puzzles and formidable enemies, and to top it all off, a showdown with the big blue boar at the
There
end.
he is.
But while it wasn't the first game in the series to have a Ganon fight, it was, at least in my opinion, the first to do it properly. The first
Nice.
Zelda game was of course revolutionary, but it was very primitive. It's actually still one of my favourite 2D Zelda games to date, but
There
the
he
fact
is.
it released over 10 years earlier than A Link to the Past meant that its Ganon fight was a little bit lacking. A Link to the Past's Ganon fight is a real challenge. It's a showdown
Ooh.
against the most powerful villain in the series, a Ganon wielding the might of the full Triforce. And it's not the mindless, brute strength pig
Full-powered
Ganon of some
Ganon.
games in the Downfall timeline. This Ganon is highly intelligent, incredibly powerful, and pure evil. The fight
Truly
starts
a
with
boss
Ganon
to
using his
not mess
trident,
with.
teleporting around the room while throwing his giant weapon at you, summoning rings of
Yeah,
fire
that
and
trident.
flaming bats.
Why
As
does
the
he have
battle
a
progresses,
trident?
he gets faster and faster, using his power
Doesn't
to
make
destroy
sense
the
completely.
arena around you, taunting you all the while. He plunges the room into pitch blackness, forcing you to either fight him blind or light lanterns in order to see him. And finally, after you've dealt enough damage to the Demon King, he'll become vulnerable to the silver arrows, with which you can
And
deal the
boom.
final blow. Sure, it's not the
He's
most
gone.
difficult boss battle in the series, but it definitely gets a place on my list as the first Ganon battle to truly make me sweat.
A false battle for
Number
everyone?
4,
And
Majora.
oh, here we go.
Okay, this one was a pretty
Majora,
obvious
my
choice.
personal favorite.
If you've played Majora's Mask, you know just how fantastic and climactic the ending of that game was, all
Damn right.
resulting in the final showdown against the mask itself and the dark god it contains, Majora. The story of Majora's Mask revolves around 3 days. 3 days
In
in
the
which
game
the moon
anyway,
is falling.
the comic
At
manga
the end of
is
the
a
third
lot
day,
different.
the moon hits Clocktown,
But
destroying
still
the world.
good. Check it out. Oh, again? Damn. Well, Sylvia in second. Well, it's not as low as I want it to be, but it should be good. Let's go.
The moon's being brought down by the Skull Kid, a mischievous forest imp from Hyrule who stole Majora's mask from the Happy
And is
Mask
listening
salesman,
to the
likely as a
spirit
prank.
inside.
However, the spirit this mask is possessed by is no joke, a dark entity with powers rivaling any villain we've seen so far in the series. Majora begins to control the Skull Kid, and his pranks become more and more malevolent as the mask's power begins to show itself.
Very,
Link,
very
throughout the course
evil.
of the game, is able to free 4 deities from the corners of the land, the 4 giants.
Called the Giants.
When
Yep,
all 4
the
giants have been
giants.
freed, on the 3rd day, just as the moon is about to land, the 4 giants are called, who catch the moon. But this isn't the end. The mask, with no use left for the Skull Kid, casts his body aside like a child bored of
This
playing with a
bit's
puppet.
empty! Yeet!
Focusing its strength, the deity forces the moon downwards, and slowly but surely the giant's strength begins to falter. They're not strong enough to hold the moon up forever, and the end of the world is nigh.
That's
However,
why we,
in
the
that
player,
dark
have to head
hour,
inside
Termina had more
to
than 4
kill
guardian
Majora.
angels.
Damn it, we got an
They had a
ad.
hero.
We're back.
Link ventures inside the moon for a showdown against the Dark God. This final boss battle can go one of 2 ways.
Ooh.
The first is a reasonably difficult fight against 3 forms of the increasingly maddened Majora. First being Majora's Mask, who fires lasers and uses other possessed masks to assault you. Next being Majora's Incarnation, a strange, eerie, dancing form.
Yeah,
And finally
it's very
Majora's
strange.
Wrath,
Just hup,
a
hup.
no-holds-barred,
And then
full-on
this guy.
assault. The mask's full power manifested into a human form with powerful tendril arms.
All about I will
This boss
destroy
battle
you
is a
energy.
difficult one, made even better by the feeling that the world is truly at stake here. When you battle the evil deity inside the moon, the giants outside are struggling to keep it from crushing the world below, their power slowly weakening. The
And
second
it's
version
inching
of this fight,
closer.
as I'm sure you know, is entirely different. Inside the moon,
Fierce
before taking on
deity
Majora,
mask.
you can obtain the game's final mask, the Fierce Deity's Mask. By trading in
deity.
all
I
other
always say
masks, you
deity.
receive a strange mask with a face resembling that of an older Link. Its description
Just with
reads,
strange
"Could this
markings
mask's
on it."
dark power be as bad as Majora?" This mask imbues Link with the power of a dark god, transforming him into an incredibly tall figure resembling adult Link, with strange armor, face paint, a colossal double helix sword,
Nice.
and eyes pure white, without pupils or irises.
The whole thing is
The
that
fight in this
we didn't
form is
even
a
know
joke.
anything about the
Majora
Dark God
can be
other
defeated
than
in
that
seconds
form.
by the raw, brutal power of the Fierce Deity. It's so much fun to overpower the big bad of this game, a villain that's caused so much pain and suffering and enjoyed bullying an entire world with its evil power and manipulating the Skull Kid, and finally
It truly
Link brings
becomes
this deity to
pathetic.
its knees. Whichever way you fight Majora, whether you choose a tense one-on-one or toy with it with the power of the Fierce Deity, the build-up and meaning behind this boss battle make it easily one of the best final bosses the
I always
series
say
has
use
ever
the Fierce
seen.
Deity. Why go easy on it? This son of a
Number
bitch
3.
was never easy on you.
Ganondorf, the Wind Waker.
Hey, look, I told you we'd
Ganondorf
see
in the Wind
Ganondorf on the
Waker is
list.
by far the most well-established villain in the
Told ya.
Zelda series. I'm really happy to see Ocarina of Time Ganondorf in Smash. He's a whole lot more expressive than Twilight Princess's King of Evil, but for me, there's one true Ganondorf, and that's the adult timeline counterpart in the Wind Waker. Ganon in this game is a broken man, cursed by the endless cycle of fate. Hundreds of years before the game, after having
Yep.
been sealed by the Seven Sages and the Hero of Time during Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf broke free from his seal and laid waste to the land.
Just popped
This
up and was
resulted
like, what
in a
up,
direct
bitches, I'm
divine
back!
intervention by the goddesses who flooded the kingdom and extinguished Ganon's rampage.
At the
However,
bequest
hundreds
of
of
the
years
king.
later, Ganon
Because
returns,
the king was like, hey,
killing the
flood
sages
the land to get
Naruto
rid of
and
this
Fado
pig!
to seal away the power of
And
the
they
Master
flooded
Sword.
the land. Just poof.
In his search for the Triforce of Wisdom, he kidnaps every girl with pointed ears he can find, searching for Princess Zelda. But his fatal mistake was kidnapping one little girl from Outset Island, the
And
sister
boom.
of the soon-to-be successor to the Hero of Time. After the events of the game, you fight Ganondorf at the top of his
Whoa.
tower, in the sunken, lost kingdom of Hyrule. He takes the Triforce of Courage from Link and Wisdom from Zelda, finally completing that which he had yearned for centuries, the full Triforce. He explains
And there
that
it
long
is.
ago, the Kingdom of Hyrule was a beautiful, prosperous land, but his people, the Gerudo, suffered and starved in the dry heat of the desert.
They could have
During
left
the
the
days,
desert.
the sands burned in
All
the
they had to do
relentless
was just
heat,
walk. Like,
and during the
literally
night,
just
his
go.
people shivered in the bitter
There it is.
cold. Ganondorf coveted the bountiful, rich lands of Hyrule, while his people perished in the unforgiving desert. And here,
Could've just
in the
left the
Sunken
desert.
Kingdom, he finally
Your
has the
people chose to
Triforce
stay
at his
there,
command.
bitch.
He can finally seize control of the land he was so envious of for so long. but before he can make his wish, the King of Hyrule wishes for the destruction of Hyrule, for the kingdom and its history of eternal conflict and war to be washed clean, so that there could be a future.
Like playing a tag with an old friend, and then they get to home base first, and immediately start trying to change the rules, saying like only one person can be at home base at one time, or something, I don't know.
This is the laugh of a broken man. A man who, for eons, has been bent on a single goal, obtaining the Triforce and using it to rule the kingdom. A man who's come just within reach of achieving his dream, only for it to be torn out from beneath him. This is a man with nothing left to lose. The actual fight against Ganondorf is a straight-up sword fight, with Zelda providing support with a light arrows from a distance.
Hold on, folks. Well, back from the ad, let's go.
The fight itself is nothing special, but it's the atmosphere, the build-up, the climax of a fantastic story that makes this battle so special. Torrential rain pours from the skies in all directions. You fight Ganondorf in the last seconds of Hyrule's existence. At the end of the fight, when Ganon is weak, you dodge a sword swing, leap above the Gerudo, and bury the Master Sword deep within his skull. In what I think is the single coolest kill in the history of the series. And with this kill, you finally end the eternal hatred of Ganondorf and allow the Kingdom of Hyrule to die in peace. Number 2. Demise. It wouldn't be a proper final boss list without including...
Demise is only number 2? The first big bag of the entire Zelda-verse? Alright. Your list after all.
Including the one that started it all. The forefather of all evil in the Zelda series, the dark architect of all Hyrule's pain,
think of him as
the true Demon King, Demise. Demise was an ancient being that appeared hundreds of years before Skyward Sword, bringing forth demons in an attempt to take the Triforce for himself. While he was bested and sealed by the goddess Hylia during Skyward Sword with the aid of his demon lord Girahim, Demise breaks free. You technically fight Demise multiple times during the game in the form of the Imprisoned, but it's not until the end game, when Zelda's soul has been consumed and Girahim is transformed into a beastly black anti-Master Sword, that the true fight begins. After ages of work, Girahim succeeded in reviving his master, and once again the Dark Lord walks the earth. I love the Demise fight because you really get the feeling you're fighting a monster of legend.
Those centuries of doing all that planning and all is technically overdone, since this Demise would technically be only imprisoned for like maybe a couple decades, maybe a century, while the imprisoned was like 1,000 years or so. So there's also the whole thing of Link technically defeats Demise twice. He defeated the first imprisoned one by dropping a temple on top of him, even covering him, and then killed the more human Demise.
If
you play the game, do you know what the hell I'm talking about?
The Demon King, an ancient god that walked the earth millennia ago. He respects the courage of Link, commending Link's decision to stand before him and save Zelda. The other humans he's known, he goes on, were weak creatures that cowered at the mere sight of him. When he last walked this world, humans screamed and clung in fear to their goddess, praying and weeping, but not Link. It's because of this bravery, a courage he's never known before, that Demise agrees to a one-on-one fight. He does not fear Link, but wants to humour the only human brave enough to make a final stand for his world, and so creates a space in which to break this final resistance. The final fight takes place in this weird alternate dimension, somewhat reminiscent of the area in which you fight Dark Link in Ocarina of Time's Water Temple. Which is fitting, as with Demise, it really feels like you're fighting the anti-Link, the antithesis of everything Link stands for. Demise embodies the Triforce of power, huge and muscular, wielding a brutal sword the size of Link in itself. It's a straight-up duel to the death, making use of straight swordplay and the occasional lightning strike to best the opponent. And after a fierce battle, Skyward Sword ends with the second coolest kill in the series, a jumping lightning strike stab to the chest of the Demon King. This fight has to be on a final bosses list for the Zelda series, as it's the origin story of the series. This
It
fight,
literally
this
is
duel,
the
lays the
first fight
foundation for the rest of the
of
series.
Zelda.
And what a way to start it. Number
Not
1.
literally, it's yes, a
Ganon,
final.
Ocarina of Time.
Oh, well look it
I'm
up,
pretty
we got
sure a
2
lot of people have
Ganons.
expected this. If you've seen my top Zelda bosses video, you'll know that not only is this my favourite final boss fight, it's straight up my favourite boss fight of all time.
Well,
After a
alright.
fierce duel at the top of his dark tower, you best Ganondorf in his magic, piercing his thick armour with light arrows and bringing the might of the Master Sword to bear against him.
Nice.
And with the last of
Multi-hits.
his strength, in a final effort to kill the hero and the princess, Ganondorf collapses his own tower, bringing it down on the trio. Link and Zelda narrowly escape before the tower implodes, leaving behind a pile of burning rubble and presumably Ganondorf's corpse somewhere in the ruins.
Only for him
But
to be like,
this
psych,
isn't the end.
power!
From within the wreckage,
Like,
Ganondorf
literally.
bursts free. His eyes are pure burning gold. Overcome with hatred,
And
he uses the
there
full
it
might
is.
of the Triforce of Power, transforming from the Gerudo Thief into a colossal beast, a demon who towers over Link.
The
Every
demon
boss in Ocarina of
Ganon.
Time has a little prefix before their name, like parasitic armoured arachnid Goma, infernal dinosaur king Dodongo, but not Ganon. He needs no introduction. You know
Oh,
exactly
he
who this is.
is.
At the end
Ganon.
of Ocarina of Time, you witness the birth of the Blight of Hyrule, a being so consumed by the lust for power that he lost all sense of his former self, so filled with burning malice that he can't be reasoned with. Ganon is a force
Oh yeah, he's
of
a
nature,
wild beast
a
now.
plague
There's
on the
nothing
kingdom,
he can do.
and this is his birth. The fight itself is still, for me, the single most cinematic Zelda fight. 20
You
years
gotta have
later.
to fight his tail.
The
which
arena is
funny.
lit only by the
Kinda
lightning
cute, I
that
guess,
crawls
maybe.
across the black skies, showing the gargantuan silhouette of the Demon King in stark contrast with the flashes of white. He is the single most terrifying and imposing Zelda
This is
enemy,
an amazing fight.
and you face
Going
him
quick,
alone.
I have to say. And there it is.
Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing for more Zelda content.
You hear them
If you
out
have
though.
any suggestions for any videos, please leave them in the comments below. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.
And with that, folks, that is where we're going to end off today's video. So, I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original video, so remember to support the original creator and all they do. And I'll see all of you folks next time. Peace out.